Yeah, I was watching all these like balloon videos, and I got like pulled down this Instagram rabbit hole.
So how long were you in this rabbit hole
for like a good hour. I was supposed to make dinner, and then I just like I was like 45 minutes into it, and I was like, okay, well, screw this, and I just put like chicken fingers and fries in the oven. Just kept scrolling.
I should get back to my life.
The wife comes over. We have chicken fingers and fries. I hope that's okay.
Been in the toilet for a while. You know, stomach problems.
Greetings and fist bumps. This is the Raised Eyebrow podcast, where we discuss how people just peopling can make it weird to be a person sometimes. But somebody's got to do it. And we are your hosts, Mike, Kojo, and Alex. In today's episode, we're just going to shoot the shit. That's right, we don't have an agenda here, unlike your noisy neighbor Brenda. We're not angling anything. Or are we? So buckle up as we start our conversation on the weather balloon invasion and find our way into exploring all the tangents that come up. Because let's face it, every other radio show and podcast does this. We're just honest about it.
These balloons are pretty huge.
Yes. What are they?
Apparently they're like 3 buses.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what kind of balloon technology they're using, but like, it's insane.
Yeah, and then it flies a bit in the lower orbit, so they can stay in one position for a long time.
What's the purpose of these things?
Yeah.
Weather.
They're just surveillance.
Allegedly.
Weather.
Quote unquote.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
because like, no one can predict the weather. You know, we've been trying for a century. Like, we should just give up. Just, you want to know the weather? Look outside.
Basically, you got to like an hour before. Just ask what the weather is. Ask Google.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then I was watching this one Netflix show. It's called like, I don't know, like Life After or Death After Life or something. I don't know, something like that.
Is that Ricky Gervais?
No, it's a documentary.
Oh, okay.
And they're talking about like what happens after you die. So like the first episode is all about like, you know, near death experiences and like people who like die and then they see the light kind of stuff. But the second episode was like, it was really interesting because it's like it's along the same lens where it's like, what if this was real? Like, you kind of just suspend your belief for a minute.
You go there for a second.
Yeah. So there's this one. So the second episode was all about mediums. What a medium is like it's a person who is able to communicate with the spirit world to the physical world, right? So they're a medium. They're in between.
Mm-hmm. Right.
This particular medium, she's like a healer. So there's this say like a spirit who's like a doctor. Or presents himself as a doctor. I don't know what doctors are like in the afterlife, but he kind of takes over her body, and then he would heal people through her body. And she's like this like 60 some odd woman, you know, English, has English accent, and then her demeanor completely changes, and you could tell it's like a man, it's like a male voice, and it's either she's like a really good actress, or this is actually like embodying her, and like just the way that he talks. And he like there's this one line that he said, he's like, oh, that's the phrase that you use today, where it's kind of like acknowledging like, oh yeah, that's what you say now. He must be like much older than what it was, and you kind of suspend your belief for just that minute, where it's like, what if this is actually like just some spirit that just walks into the room? But then, so there's this guy who's like on a table, and he has like a nerve issue, and he keeps like shaking, not Parkinson's, but it looks like Parkinson's. And he ends up like calming him down, and then he's still like he's normal, like his body's not shaking. And there's this like spirit doctor guy inside the 60-year-old woman, and meanwhile the wife's just like sitting in the room as if nothing is peculiar about the fact that all of a sudden the 60-year-old woman just starts talking like this doctor from like the 1920s, like just as if that's a normal Tuesday.
How much does she charge?
I don't know. I was just really be curious by it. And another one was they talked to this one. So that was like more of like a traditional medium, or like a visual medium or healing medium. But then there's this other one where it's like a physical medium. So she would go into like this, like there'd be like a dark room, like pitch black, no light. And then she's in like this one part of the room that has like a curtain around her. And she would be like strapped to a chair, and they would use like zip ties on her wrists. So she literally can't get out. They have to like cut her out.
What?
And on her feet and her arms are like zip tied to the chair. And
oh, wow.
It's completely pitch black, and there's like a series of like spirits who would come to her and speak through her. One of them's like a boy, one of them's like this older woman. Her voice would completely change. And it's just like, again, like if you kind of suspend your belief, it's like, is that actually like some entity from like another realm speaking through this person? But then they talk about like ectoplasm, where it's like this like thing, this physical or metaphysical substance that comes out of a person. Like it's like your life force, but it's like being materialized, and then like apparently they would like shape it into different things to like do whatever is needed. It's like it's just one of those things where you're kind of like, okay, like that's and you just like
bizarre.
end up there in these random rabbit holes.
Yep. Remember that Gloria spirit person? She'd go on like all the talk shows, and she'd like, your daughter got killed.
Oh yeah, like the
she got exposed a few years ago. Does
anybody here have a father? Does anybody have a father in the room? Well, I have a father.
Right.
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, your father wants to tell you. Well, he's alive, so how do you know that?
I remember she told a woman on some talk show that, her missing little girl was like, she got killed, and like she's communicating through her, blah blah blah. And then they found her like years later in some creepy dude's basement, and she was alive the whole time. So then it exposed so it exposed Gloria as a fraud. Shocking. So I'm a skeptic, of course. So it's like, and she was like the most I think she was a millionaire from just telling people bullshit. So just a scam artist. I'm a healer.
Yeah, there's always scam artists. So like every industry, there's always like somebody's trying to scam you. Like,
she went on all the talk shows. Yeah.
It's kind of sad though, because people put their trust in you that you're gonna like actually give them something they can rely on.
And these people just want hope, right? Especially like if your little girl is missing, like, or someone passed away, you want to communicate with grandma, whatever.
Yeah,
it's sad.
Well, the trick for like the person who's like, if you're with like a medium or whatever, is like you don't. Like if they're like, oh, does anybody here have a father? Don't be like, yeah, that's me. It's like, no, like hold back. Like if your dad is actually talking to her, then he'll say other stuff that's a little bit more relevant. Like let her prove to you that it's actually your father talking to you from the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give any information.
Like if he's like.
Yeah, I think the feedback stuff, like when they ask those questions and then they're like, yes.
They're just really, the scam artists are really skilled at picking up on these types of things, right?
And people are so, like you said, Mike, it's like they're so desperate for answers that they'll just like give in at any moment just to.
Yep.
Do these guys go to school to kind of like learn some of these?
Or scam artists?
Yeah, like, what to say to someone to make them believe.
Yeah, you can major in being a con artist.
Like there's a story of this guy
who
would like send emails to people and like take their money, but then what they'll do is they'll take your money, they'll give you back the money, which develops like some kind of trust that you're legit, and then they'll rob you. Like
there's two ways that happens. There's like one where you would, so you know how you can do like direct deposit on your bank account and direct withdrawal. So you would like, they would take money out, say $20, and then they would like invest it, and then they would give you back $30. So like, look, see, no scam here. Like, oh, okay, I could trust this guy. Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, they clean the whole place out. Yeah, because like that's how they do it, because they develop your trust, and then it's like you like, okay, they could trust them. My advice is like, don't give people access to your bank account unless you absolutely have to.
So it's good advice.
Yeah, just write me a check, I'll cash it, on my own time.
Right.
Let's do this old school.
Do people still use like checks?
I do, because it creates a paper trail. Yeah, I'm paranoid like that.
If you get in trouble.
Yeah. I always for some reason, I don't know why my mind goes to this place, but it's always like, what would happen if this particular situation, if I ended up in court and had to explain myself in front of a judge? So like, I don't know, like it's like the weirdest thing. Like, it'd be like getting like a new cell phone. It'd be like, I got to create a paper trail.
Also, like you buy like gadgets, computer stuff with
no,
checks?
but like in other situations, like I would always like kind of consider the worst possible scenario for what would happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can still get records if you use like your phone to pay for something.
Yeah. As long as there's like if it's anything where you would need to have like any kind of reciprocation or back and forth, like having a paper trail is always good, because it gives you a place to argue from, right?
Right.
Right.
And
you can prove things.
Yeah. So you keep your receipts, all that kind of stuff.
Do you ever going back to con artists? You guys ever heard of like pickup artists? That's a whole thing.
Oh, where this like like a pseudo profession they have, or semi-professional hobby.
It's like a 30-year-old guy teaching like 20-year-old unconfident guys how to pick up women. So, and there's like books about this stuff.
Yeah.
That's
always funny.
I think it's much needed nowadays, because it's very difficult to even speak to someone in the street.
Oh yeah, yeah, especially for the younger generation. Like they
Yeah.
They grew up on their phones, and then you have the pandemic where it's all digital. And like a lot of them are coming of age where like they don't even know how to like spark a conversation with a stranger.
Yeah, just basic conversation.
Yeah, like
Zoomers.
Not even like asking a person out on a date, just being like, "Hey, I like your shoes," like, you know. Or
apparently they're the most socially awkward generation.
Yeah,
which sucks.
Yeah,
you know, how are they going to communicate in the future? I think we talked about this last time. They're the generation with like they're the least populated generation. Because right, our generation's having the least amount of kids in human history.
Yeah.
And so they're the kids, the Zoomers, and they're like, there's not a lot of them. So it's interesting.
Yeah, a lot of them are kids of Gen X. Yeah. Which is a small generation to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And then we're like,
it's like the transition generation.
Yeah, we're the kids of the baby boom.
What are millennials?
Yeah, we're kids of baby boom. Or there's like millennials, echo boom is another one.
Millennials are from 1981 to 1996. And then Zoomers, years range,
like
late 90s till now, basically.
Oh, wow.
So, like, I guess after 96, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's kind of weird having, like, that. Like, now it kind of makes sense. Like, okay, 81 to, like, mid-90s. Yeah, that makes sense. But then you have current generation. It's like you have teenagers having the same pseudo challenges as, like, a 2-year-old. Like, oh, you can't pick up girls at a bar? What's the problem? You don't know which milk to order?
Let's say like a 12-year-old.
Yeah. I know toddlers aren't good at pickups anyway, so.
No.
Yeah.
They don't care.
No, they don't.
But a 13-year-old boy, they'd love nothing more.
It's interesting, like, how they would lose it, though. Because, like, kids, they just naturally just, like, you know, hey, you like the same toys I do. Let's be friends. Done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then, like, over time, like, you lose that confidence. You lose that kind of mentality of just kind of that fearlessness of being socially or being feared of being socially awkward. You lose it over time, and then eventually you come to a point where, like,
you don't give
ordering a beer at a bar is now all of a sudden difficult. You have to do it through the app because, like, God forbid you talk to the bartender.
I think that's the main thing. Because these kids are just online all day.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they're more likely to text, But then once you see the person in front of you, like, oh, I said that, I think that hurt their feelings. Like, you get that feedback. It's like, okay, I can't say that. So then you communicate, right?
Yeah. So do you think that
And
maybe like the sensitivity that is happening a lot today around the way that people interact with each other could potentially be due to the fact that they don't know how to interact with each other?
Bingo.
Right.
Bingo.
Right.
I think they're not exposed to, I don't want to say rejection, but like there's a lack of adversity even in basic interactions. Like if I tease you guys, it's because I like you, right? Like men especially have that.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
If you're my friend, I'm going to make fun of you, and it's because I like you. But if you don't know the rules of this, then your feelings are just destroyed because you can't be around it.
Yeah, I think some of it is the societal structures that we put together. It's kind of like, it's like we're protecting people, but then by protecting them, we actually harm them.
Exactly. The helicopter parents.
Yeah.
And it's like, same goes where, like, if I think you're making a life mistake, I have to, and if I'm really your friend, I have to be able to say, hey, like, I don't know if this is the right move for you, or like, you know.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you develop that honesty. Yeah. Yeah. And like, with guys like you, like those times where it's like you do something, you're like, oh great, I'm gonna hear about this for like the next 6 years.
Yeah. It's all love.
It's like, oh man.
Yeah, but women's a different dynamic. That's I don't know if we can touch that one.
Yeah, we're definitely not qualified to enter that realm.
No.
Yeah.
You ever remember that Family Guy bit? It's like, like, men, we know how to be friends.
Like your shirt, thanks.
Yeah, and then the girls are like, "Oh, I love your thighs. They're so big and strong." It's like, I hate you.
Right.
It's all passive aggression.
I mean, so have you guys seen the movie that came out?
Oh yeah,
You People.
Great movie.
I want to see it. It's a lot of controversy.
It's so good
in the Jewish community.
See, that's the thing. Like, I watched it and I was like, wow, I really loved it, but I'm not sure how people are going to take it.
I thought it was great.
Right.
You like that?
It was amazing to me. Like, I thought it was like amazing. Because if you look at the two cultures, they're both trying to be like loving, caring, right? So the mom comes off a bit like, whoa, you're treating, like, you pretty much making me feel like I'm like an object. But all she's trying to do is like, hey, I'm trying to be on your level, like talk your lingo.
Yeah. I'm
in the know, right? And it comes off as, whoa, why are you talking about my hair?
Oh,
but,
yeah. That's the mother of, what's her name? Julia DeFries. What's Elaine from Seinfeld? What's her name?
Julia Louise Dreyfus.
Yeah. Thank you.
Something like that. So it's so what is it? It's a Jewish family and a Muslim black family, right?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, which is another thing too, that in the movie, like, Jewish people are not white.
Yeah, that's where they got in trouble, right? Because like, what about the brown Jews? And they're like, well,
yeah,
why are we referring to?
Well, they also played into like the white black dynamic too, right?
They did.
So,
and to be fair, there's a lot of Jews in the States, especially, who identify as white, like in the because they're not visible minorities, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I might not look like Alex, but I don't look like Kojo either, right? So it's like, where am I? Jews are confused. Like everything, Jews are confusing.
Well, so it was written by Jonah Hill, and it stars Jonah Hill, and I believe he's Jewish himself. So I think the reason why the Jewish family in the film was white was because he himself is white, or at least identifies as white.
That's fair.
I think that's
and
the
also
reason why
people need. I think people need to lighten up also.
Yeah.
Jews are so sensitive. Jews are so sensitive.
Yeah.
Get over it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think with all the stuff we're talking about today, it's like, just calm down a bit.
Chill.
Like, if you can lighten up a bit, take a chill pill.
Yeah.
It's not so bad.
Like, take a cue from our generation. Just smoke something, or if it's legal where you are, you can smoke marijuana. If it's not legal, then drink water. Have tea, drink tea. Just
sign up to our walking subscription.
Yeah, exactly. Sign up to our walking subscription. Go for a nice walk. Also, you could join our sleep program and just be encouraged by us to sleep normally, regularly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen to your favorite podcast.
Exactly.
Our generation loves podcasts.
Yeah.
Time for a quick commercial break. We're excited to introduce to you the latest fitness trend sweeping the nation.
Walking.
That's right. It's more than just a way to move around your house. It's exercise too.
You can walk around the block or 5, walk to the park, walk to get the mail. Plus, you can even walk a dog.
Preferably your own.
And if you're thinking, gee, this walking thing is kind of boring, try listening to your favorite podcast as well as your 8th favorite, the Raised Eyebrow podcast.
Oh, don't forget the performance package.
Right. For a limited time, upgrade your walking to the performance package. Running.
It's like walking, but faster.
So get outside, folks, and get those steps in. And if you're walking right now, how meta is that?
Okay, now let's get back to our show. Because it's like everyone is trying to do their best. There's some people who are really bad people, right? And then there are other people who are trying to like do their best, but then they end up being like, ooh, I can't say anything. Maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah.
You know?
You're like, oh, I don't know how to approach this. What do I do?
And there are people who wait to be offended.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, what did you say?
Yeah.
You don't know me. Like, oh, shit. Relax.
I think if you live your life like that, you're always going to be on the edge. You're always going to be stressed. You're always going to be throwing punches here and there. And life is
too short.
It's too short to be like.
Just be a person.
Yeah, it doesn't matter that much.
Yeah, I don't care what you think. You don't live in my house.
Yeah.
If you don't like me, I mean no harm. Like, you know.
Like that one argument you have with like that one person at that one, cashier at McDonald's is not going to solve racism. No. It's not going to correct like thousands of years of oppression towards several groups of people. Like it's not going to fix anything. So spare that poor cashier who's just working minimum wage. You're not going to fix the problem. You want to fix the problem, run for office.
Right.
Even then,
yeah.
Yeah. Pick your battles.
Like, I mean, there are some people who are like, they're, because there are times when something happens at work and then you correct the person. And then it's like, you always have to be correcting people. So then it's like, it's your job to be correcting people. So people are like, I'm not going to even explain to you why this word is racist, which I understand. But then, just be a bit patient, right? If you don't want to explain, don't explain.
Yeah.
But, chill out a bit.
Yeah. I mean, you have to pick your battles too. Like sometimes there are things that are offensive, or someone maybe not offensive, but like people are ignorant, and you know that it's not correct based on what you know. So like, how do you communicate that, right? Maybe you share a personal story. Maybe you build a connection with that person. But most of the time, I think it's it's not that complicated. Just hang out. No one means any harm.
Like Bill Murray has this skit in one of his comedy, and he talks about his wife going like how black people always put on lotion, and as a white man, he'd never.
It's like, why are you so ashy? It's like, I didn't know that I was ashy. And then she like scratched
right? It. If you're around other people, you learn about yourself, like, because then it allows you to be, I didn't know white people think that, this is that.
Yeah, his wife's black. Right?
Yeah. Wasn't there like, well, it's also like I guess two things here. Like one is, like the one thing that always gets me is when that whole thing where, well, you can't learn about other cultures. It's like, well, this is our culture. You don't, it's not your culture. You're not allowed to learn about. You're not allowed to touch it. It's ours. It's like this whole private thing.
Cultural appropriation.
But then the whole idea of inclusion is to learn about other cultures so that you understand them and you appreciate them, and you're able to like you understand where their customs are coming from, right? And why they have those customs. And so by learning about like even just like lotion, or just like cultural traditions, you learn about Lunar New Year when it comes to like Chinese culture, or even like Ramadan or anything like that. Like you learn about these cultures and you learn about why they matter, why they're significant, their particular calendars, because like the Jewish calendar, what rolls over on Yom Kippur, right? It's like New Year's essentially, or Rosh Hashanah. Which one? Sorry, which one?
Rosh Hashanah's they're hand in hand. Rosh Hashanah means New Year essentially.
Okay.
And then a few days later, it's Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement.
Okay, yeah. So and that's in September typically, and then you have like the Chinese Lunar New Year, and then you have the Gregorian calendar, which is obviously that New Year happens on December 31st, January 1st. So it's like the calendars are all different, but they all mean different things historically and culturally to those respective things, cultures and groups.
It's a compliment.
Yeah, and just by learning about it and understanding it, like I'm not an expert in any of this stuff, but you begin to understand like a lot more about the culture rather than being closed off from it. Because if you're closed off from a culture, you only have the stereotypes to resort to, and that's where racism resides.
Yeah,
it's the lack of.
I learned.
Go ahead.
I learned something amazing the other day about how Muslims pick their day for Ramadan, and apparently it has to be the day the moon shows. So they can't just pick. You know how our calendar is really messed up because of the leap year and all that stuff. So if Christmas is today, and if the moon is not showing, according to Muslims, that's not Christmas.
Right.
So then they have to wait for the moon to show, which I was like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because that's actually the correct time.
Yeah. If you look at a lot of cultures, everything has to do with like the stars, the moon, the sun. Like Egyptians worship the sun. They were obsessed with it, right? There's a good show on Netflix. I think you guys might like it. Documentary. It's called Ancient Apocalypse. Really good.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen it. Have you
I
heard of
watched
this?
it.
What'd you think? Is there? I'll tell Kojo the premise. So it's this guy named Graham Hancock, who's a journalist. So his theory is that the ancients had some sort of disaster. So it might have been a meteor or the ice age, like crazy floods. But there was an advanced civilization that was lost in time, and so our civilization kind of picked up from them. But we don't have enough evidence to. So he makes the connections between the ancients around the world. Like they communicated with each other, just how we can communicate with London or whatever, anywhere in the world. Anyway, watch it.
Yeah, it's really the story of Atlantis comes from.
Atlantis.
Because like, how did
we
Plato
know for sure
know about Atlantis?
Yeah. Symbols. It's all symbology.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the reason I thought of this is because they all had a connection. They worship the stars. And his theory is that they can see the meteors crashing down to Earth from the sky, so they they built shrines and different symbology to calculate star alignment, things like that. It's interesting.
Huh. There's one. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Rick. Oh, I was gonna say, Rick Rubin has a book on creativity, and he does talk about the importance of learning about different cultures, because even for him being like one of the best producers on the planet, and is hip hop.
Yep.
It's a crazy hip hop head, right? And it's like it was for his admiration to the culture that got him into wanting to learn about the culture and produce one of the best records.
Yeah. And then I looked up something about, just going back briefly to calendars. So in the year 1752, so we're currently on what's called the Gregorian calendar. So January, February, March, April. That's the Gregorian calendar. And the problem that the Catholic Church had at the time, because the Gregorian calendar is named after Pope Gregory, was that so Easter is usually in spring, right? So March, April, basically, right? But they had a problem because Easter kept moving closer to the beginning of the year, and eventually it was in February. And if it kept happening, because over several hundred years, because at this point, 1752, so 1,752 years, since or I guess subtract 33, but whatever. 1700 years later, after Christ died, Easter kind of progressively just moved closer to January, February.
Right.
So the Catholic Church had a problem because eventually Easter would be on the other side of Christmas. So it's like your whole calendar is getting messed up.
Yeah.
So they had to like fix things. So this is where the whole leap year comes from, right? Because there's like the amount of time it takes the Earth to actually go around the sun is like 365.26 days. And then they had to like correct the days. So in September 1752, they took out 11 days from the calendar. So the calendar went September 1st, September 2nd, September 14th, September 13th. And they just like skipped 11 days in the calendar and then just kept going from there. And that's how they kind of just corrected everything. And then they put in a leap year to kind of like make sure that it never moves after that.
Didn't they also add like July and August were added by the Romans?
Yeah, so July is Julius Caesar and then August is Augustus Caesar.
And that's why astrology is bullshit.
Because like October is Oct 8, right? So the Romans had October, so September 7th, October 8th, November 9th, December 10th. So those were the like 7, 8, 9, 10, 10th month. But if you look at it, the number on the calendar, it's 9, 10, 11, 12. The reason why they're shifted back to is because Augustus Caesar wanted his own month, and he wanted it to be the nicest month of the year, so he put his in August. Julius Caesar wanted to one-up the guy. He's like, oh, screw that. I'm going to put mine in July, and it's going to come first. Or the other way around or something like that. So, yeah, they're just basically one-upping each other, and they wanted them about themselves, so they just put the two... Yeah, so they... But then why did they just rename, like, October, November, December, like... Just like name it after other people, like I don't know.
You think he was a Virgo, or
I don't know. I'm just joking. Yeah, like were they born in those? Like was Julius Caesar born in July? If July was created after he was born,
I think he just wanted nice weather during his namesake.
Yeah,
like you said, summer, man. But like. They were in Rome. Wasn't Rome hot as fuck all year long?
Yeah, which is weird. It's like, why do you want like the hottest months that like everybody just wants to like stay inside? Because it's like they should have picked like November. It would have been like way better. October.
Well, I guess Romans the home base was in Rome, but the empire was massive. So I'm sure he traveled around to.
Yeah, they kept.
Yeah, but it was mostly the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not.
Yeah. How far north did Rome go? Let me check
England.
This out here. Was it? Oh yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
The Holy Roman Empire. That was in Germany.
Yeah, it was in England, and like London was founded by Romans.
Yeah, there's a German saying about the Holy Roman Empire. It's like
it's not
there
holy,
was nothing holy or Roman about it.
Yeah, it's not an empire. Yeah, well, because then that's when the Holy Roman Empire came after the empire split. So there was like the Holy Roman Empire was based out of Rome, and then you had the Roman Empire was out of Constantinople, which is modern day Istanbul, and then the Holy Roman Empire ended up collapsing in and on itself, and then eventually the church, like the Catholic Church, became the Vatican, and then they ended up taking a huge swath, and then you had all these different kingdoms, and that's when you got the Middle Ages. The actual Roman Empire lasted much longer, and the only way that they survived was that Emperor Constantinople adopted Christianity as its main religion, because it was basically just like a huge PR move on his end. Like by doing this, it's like, okay, now they're not going to revolt against me because I'm one of them, you know? And then eventually Emperor Mehmed, he came in. He was the Persian emperor. Mehmed. Yeah. Mehmed. So he came in and he took over Constantinople, named it Istanbul. And then eventually he had a whole back and forth with Vlad the Impaler, who we now know as Dracula.
Yeah.
Vladimir Putin.
I went to his castle.
Yeah.
Vladimir Putin.
There you go. That's the brief history lesson of Roman history. Yeah. Join us next time.
So what do you call this episode? Like shoot the shit?
We could do a shoot the shit, yeah. So
shooting the shit.
But the explanation here, so I don't know if we should do like We should do like an outro part though, like, because we say like.
Final thoughts.
Oh, we can do final thoughts, yeah. But I don't know how you do final thoughts for like.
Yeah, because we didn't have a topic.
Yeah, maybe we just do.
How did
like,
this start? Talking about balloons.
How did we start? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think.
Did we talk
about balloons? Or something?
We talked about balloons.
I don't remember.
And then
there was something before, I think. What was it?
It was about like the ghost thing and the medium, and then we got into racism.
Yeah.
Generations, racism, the Holy Roman Empire, Dracula.
You people.
They're all connected. Everything's connected.
Yep.
Anyways, follow us on the socials for more randomness.